on the African continent, it is rather easy to meet people, but it's not necessarily that easy to meet the right people. So be it to do business, or if you want to find also, as you were saying, for our team to find the right talent is also often a kind of a challenge.
Hello.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another wonderful episode of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs podcast. Today we have two amazing, let me call them stallion, two amazing ladies with us today. And they are kind of unique because they're actually making things happen, not just sitting on the sideline talking and just complaining, but actually making things happen. Today we have Melanie Daigle. She's the co-founder of the Business Club Africa. She's in charge of sales and business development, acquisitions, based in West Africa for 10 years and recently moved to Canada. And she's a business matchmaking expert. And her co-founder, Nadia Mrabit, half Moroccan, I would say. She's half African, and she grew up in Austria in a multicultural setting, a citizen of the world, as she calls herself. And she's interested in meeting other cultures and discovering new places, traveling, and nature. And she strongly believes that we all have a role to play in improving our livelihoods all across the world. So, Melanie, Nadia, welcome to this show today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Yeah, it's quite a mouthful when I introduce two guests anyway. So, yeah, so I just go like, keep on going until, So how is it going, guys?
Going great. It's Friday, so happy Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So let me start with you. What is how are you guys coping during this pandemic?
That's a tough question. Nad, you wanna start?
Okay, sure. Thank you for passing it to me. That's an honor. So how are we coping with all this? I think seriously, at the end of the day, out of something negative, there's always something positive. So there are quite some opportunities out there. So basically, you just have to open your eyes, open your ears and everything, and let the doors open, and and you find a really different, or maybe sometimes different ways to do things. So I believe it's not such a bad thing, be it professionally, also personally. So yeah.
Well, in our case, I mean, most of our work was online already. So of course we had, trips planned to Africa that we couldn't, do, but we kind of work around the clock anyway. So for us, it was just being stuck in one place only and working. But otherwise, we have a distributed team. So like working from home was not a big challenge for us. We're used to have mobile offices and working from, airports. So it's okay. We just had to making sure that we do have some sort of a social life like everybody else, and making sure that we train a bit, we get moving a bit, and not just, sit in front of our computers. But beside that, I mean, we're still standing, right? We're doing great.
Yeah, so because I was kind of wanting to ask you how has the transition been? Are you guys more you've mentioned that you guys are more online, so there's not a huge transition there. But have you got visual teams in Africa?
If we have a visual team, is that what you said?
Yeah, visual teams in Africa, like assistants and all those kind of.
Yeah, we have people based in several countries, and we weren't based there anyway in the first place. So, again, we would use all the same tools like everybody else, Slack, WhatsApp, Zoom already. So that was not a big, you just have to make sure you have a good internet connection, which in certain African countries can be tricky, but otherwise it works fine.
Yeah, so how did you guys meet to come up with this idea of organizing a business club for African C-suite execs?
I would say so. The idea came out actually of our own experience, because as we are business people for like Melanie and myself and our other partners for many years already, at least 10 years plus for each of us. And we've realized that in general, on the African continent, it is rather easy to meet people, but it's not necessarily that easy to meet the right people. So be it to do business, or if you want to find also, as you were saying, for our team to find the right talent is also often a kind of a challenge. So that's basically where the idea came from our own experiences. And what we did afterwards is to challenge this idea or to test it. So we actually made a survey and interviewed quite a lot of like over 120 different people, so senior level executives in different industries, in different African countries, but also outside of Africa, but working or doing business in Africa. And actually the vast majority of the people we've surveyed and interviewed had the same experience. So that's basically how we decided, okay, there is definitely a gap and we should bridge it. How could we do that? And we came up then with the idea of having this business club, which is basically an exclusive community, and where we focus really on quality rather than quantity. So we're not an African LinkedIn, let's say, but we're more into a community, a network of peers, but in a like really well, how should I say, well selected and really with a similar philosophy of actually really kind of a win-win, and also of sharing knowledge, of sharing experience, sharing network, sharing business opportunities to really help each of us grow their own business, as we're all business people.
Yeah, that was great, because I really like that. But you said that was it's not like African business LinkedIn, you know. So why the exclusivity of it, Melanie?
Well, because it's important to have highly qualified, like having quality members. So when we introduce a member to another member, because we receive all kinds of different requests, let's say, I'm interested in opening my, so expanding my my business to a new market, let's say DRC. But I don't know anybody there, and I'd like to find a supplier or a distributor, or just some legal advice. Where do I start? And again, as Nadia was saying, usually you can start by perhaps the Chamber of Commerce or your embassy, and they're extremely useless. They're so useless. So we've all experienced it. And so what you need is you start talking to people who are actually, doing business in that market. And that's how then you start working on your network, and hopefully you get some leads. Is it a good one? You don't know. So when you use Business Club Africa, you know that the person we're going to put you in touch with has already been selected by us. We've talked to that person. We talk to every single member a few times a year to make sure that we still know exactly what they do, in which countries, etc. And so that's why it's so important that we do validate the profile of each individual. It's not free either. So people are paying to be members. They get services in return, obviously, but also committing to paying a certain fee. You're serious already, So you're willing to truly participate in a club. It's not like time consuming or anything like that, but you're part of a private network that you can rely on. So that's pretty much, summarize it.
And that's great, because I was thinking, because one thing that really attracted me to like speak to you guys is, you know, the current situation right now for African entrepreneurs. Can you just throw some light on how are they coping right now, or some coping mechanism that they've actually like instilled? Because the infrastructural deficit is real. So how are they coping with the current situation?
Obviously, to start with, I would say in general in Africa, the nice, let's say, DNA we have, and also from our experience in Africa, it's the resilience. So in general, in Africa, we're very creative. So we always find solutions where a lot of other people, if I may say, from other places in this world would be like overwhelmed and like, oh, what can we do? It's a catastrophe. I will give a very simple example for that. But if you take, for instance, you know, I think of people were in the streets of, for instance, of Burkina Faso, where actually Melanie and myself met back in the days, where you could see people just with some waste they collected, like different things. They built a nice giraffe. I don't have it here, unfortunately, but I used to have it with me all the time. So a very nice piece of art. Or they could create, they could sell back this waste to actually get money and do something else. So I think this is already something very important to start with. And explains as well the way that in general in Africa, businesses, be it entrepreneurs or also in big companies and stuff, the way actually to react and change. It's like a cat, you know, a cat can jump from the third floor, fall into their feet. This is exactly how I see Africans in general, and especially African businessmen and businesswomen. So for African entrepreneurs and African businesses, especially in this specific crisis, in those unprecedented times, fact is there are so many examples across the continent of companies that have really in a very very rapid way changed the way they were doing business. So be it large companies that, for instance, were brewing beer, they said, okay, no, we will actually give some alcohol to other companies who will actually do the alcohol, the gel that we're all using, the disinfectant. Others would just, like in the tech business, like within a weekend, there were many virtual hackathons that were made across the continent, and the young techies were really thinking of new ways to do stuff. Or I don't know, in Senegal, we're also how do you say that? Delivery companies, delivery startups, they really helped out for a lot of things to make it happen while Dakar was in a total lockdown for quite some weeks. So that's what I mean. They're all coping, of course, in their own manner, but they find ways, and it's also a lot related to solidarity. So they will discuss with other businesses, with their network again, to find solutions together, or how they could help each other, even when they're in the same sector.
Oh, because funny that you say that, because some of the resistance, some of the ways that some businesses in Nigeria actually coped was that, let's take the fashion industry. Most of them had to like switch to making protective gears for the healthcare sector, and it has really brought this connection between different industries that wouldn't actually normally speak to each other, but now they can actually like connect with each other. What is the importance of connection, do you think, in Africa, Melanie, for African businesses? The importance of connection.
Well, I think that Kagame says it perfectly, how important it is for African countries to stop looking outside and just start doing more business among each other. Another reason why, we decided to launch Business Club Africa was that we both, well, all of the partners, we worked in French-speaking countries and English-speaking countries, and there's such a big difference between French-speaking countries and English ones. And they basically don't do business together, and it's a pity. And it's extremely important that there's more, just more opportunities for all the business managers to even meet, from different countries, and have more ways of doing business. There's this, in French we say ZLEC, and I have no idea what's it called in English. The economic zone for Nat, do you know the word in English, like the acronym?
ZLEC.
ZLEC?
What is that?
Is it like the
La
economic?
ZLEC. Yeah, what is that? La zone d'échange africaine. Comment ça s'appelle? C'est pas ça, la ZLEC?
Ah, ce qu'ils viennent de faire, AFTA,
Oui.
the agreement for the free trade, you mean?
Yes, yes, among African countries.
Oh,
Okay. Well, that's a great, initiative. Because at the end of the day, just like Nad was saying, I mean, they know how to do business. They don't need to be taught anything. Yes, perhaps being a bit more connected. I think that you'll have young entrepreneurs really like helping out and finding solutions, but the solutions have to be local. The impact of COVID in Africa doesn't seem to be that bad, because Africa never, they didn't move all of their industries to China. Of course, they were importing a lot, but they can also create everything locally. I mean, they have the manpower, they have the resources. The cost of electricity is always a big problem, but to be competitive on a worldwide market. But I mean, they've got everything to just face that and, be independent in all of this, not so hurt. So, yeah.
yeah. Okay. That's a wonderful thing, because we're still, it is, for me, it is a great thing for Africa right now, because like you said, which is right, we've not actually been to the level of the West.
Yeah.
So there's still great room for us to improve, and we don't have these shackles, but we can actually build something where they are right now. So there's a bridge. So you spoke, we are diasporans anyways. So what's the importance of diasporans in Africa, to Africa? Melanie, this is for you. What is the importance of diasporans in Africa as a bridge to the West? As a bridge to the West?
How about just for themselves? I'm a big believer that, we have to stop saying, this whole development of Africa. I think Africa has its everything that it needs, its own solutions. They have to decide for their own future. What's happening right now, they're looking at the West and they're like, wow, you guys are like, you're living this crisis and it's crazy, versus in Africa, it's not as crazy and chaotic. And hopefully it's it'll be a way for people to just realize that they really don't need the West and they don't need China. They can do everything for themselves and really increase even the businesses among each other between countries. And they'll be the winner in all of this, So, and that will never come from their governments. So do not wait for governments to suddenly, Kagame is the only person who's a bit proactive verbally, at least. There are a few others, but otherwise, I mean, I think it's going to come from the private sectors, and you have enough creative minds locally to make things happen. So, just, don't look outside, just locally is perfect.
Yeah, we have an influx of digital healthcare moving into Africa right now, and I've interviewed some entrepreneurs who are into digital headspace right now, delivering over about 3-4 countries in West Africa. So they're seeing a huge rise, and this can be an aha moment for all of us to, like, even in the diaspora, like, what, let's go. And I quite agree with you that Kagame is just leading the way right now, and I hope the other leaders would follow and be more vocal about it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. He does create hope, and there's a lot of young entrepreneurs looking up at him, and just like it's very refreshing to finally have a political figure who truly believe in his own people and what they can accomplish, versus waiting for China to finance something, and like we can do everything locally. Like he took a very strong decision for his textile industry, for example. And so it's nice. That's how it's very important to support your local industries. Unfortunately, most governments, again, are very useless. But the private sector can come together. And as Nadia was giving a lot of examples, it is happening. It is happening. So that's good.
Yeah, you mentioned something very nice just now, the private sector. Nadia, do you think the private sector can be the pillar or the saviors of Africa, kind of, when it comes to the African Rising movement?
Yeah, definitely. I believe, as Melanie was saying, it's actually the catalyzer, the engine. So, of course, you have other, let's say, forces or levers, pillars that can help you, like, yes, governments and others. But the private sector is really, the people and the private sector are the real engine of any change. And you see it every day across Africa, north, south, east, west. I mean, a lot of things, a lot of change, a lot of innovation, etc., comes at the end of the day. It's really the private sector that is leading that ahead. And I believe it's just a few, let's say, a few tools maybe that are sometimes missing. You have also the question of financing, of getting access to finance. So banks are offering some credits and you name it. But if you take some examples of interest rate in some countries, if I take, for instance, Ghana, I mean, it's double digit the interest rate you have. So who would actually take such a credit? Seriously, no one. So there is kind of a very risk aversion and maybe too much of a caution of the banking sector in general and across Africa, even though things are moving, etc. But that's how you see that, for instance, fintechs and stuff are coming in, and there are others that are actually entering this missing middle spot or space to actually help SMEs, for instance, across Africa, because these are the real engines in Africa. That's like 90% of the companies or even more are actually SMEs or MSMEs, so micro, small, and medium enterprises. So there's definitely something with the financing that has to be done to support, and this is why a lot of companies and entrepreneurs are actually how should I say, they're counting on the 3 F's. So there's friends, fools, and friends, families, and fools, because at the end of the day, the banks are not necessarily there. And you can talk to so many, business people or entrepreneurs or you name it across the continent. And all the time, most of the time, they say, yeah, it's a crazy uncle of mine who said, oh yes, yeah, why not? I'll give you the money to start that. So yeah, fine, perfect. Or you were talking to a friend and they gave you a bit of money to do your business. So, or even yourself, you're like, okay, you will invest yourself out of your savings because you believe in your idea and you make it happen at the end of the day. So you're not waiting. So it's maybe also what Melanie was saying earlier. So it's, also, the private sector in general is a sector that does not wait for things to happen from outside. If you're waiting for the government, the banks, you name it, any donors, etc., to make things happen, it could, but it will take so long. You don't have the time as a private sector. Things have to be done even yesterday. It's not about today or tomorrow. You need to be fast and act and react fastly. Then I would say also with another thing that should be improved also, but it's also in the way, I mean, it's also ongoing now. It's of course the access to internet, because it's critical now to do business. I mean, even in really remote areas, I don't know, in Zambia, you will find people with smartphones, doing their business, talking to people, etc., to their suppliers, etc., clients, directly on their phone, somewhere sitting under a tree, and that's it. So there are definitely things, but at the end of the day, yes, the private sector is the catalyzer, is the engine of the change in Africa, and rapid change. And I think this whole situation of COVID is showing actually already, and will show even further, that Africa, the way we do business in Africa, or do things in Africa in general, people outside will open their eyes and see, they don't need the others, they can do it themselves, they have their own way, or we have our own way, and that's it. So do it, make it happen.
Do it.
Yeah. Nike will come and sue me. A lot of money. Maybe I should change my word, but make it happen. I don't know if somebody did it already, but yeah.
The one wish I have for Africa is, let me not say inclusion, but power, electricity. In my country, in Nigeria, electricity is, it's not where it's supposed to be, but that's my one wish for them. What is your one wish for Africa, for African entrepreneurs, business climate? What's your one wish?
Wow, that's a tough question. Yeah, I totally share the power with you. I would say, and it's the same struggle for every entrepreneur around the world, but access to finance is very tough. And we work with a pool of investors at Business Club Africa for all kinds of like different sizes, from like private funds, people representing family fortunes, so like the IFC, World Bank, etc. But and they struggle also to find good deals. And Nadia and I are always shocked, because we talk to so many people all the time, and they represent great businesses, and they've been established for a while, and all they need is maybe $500,000 to buy more equipment, or for different reasons. And it's just so hard to have access. You go to the bank, they'll give you a credit that you have to pay back within 2 years at like 10 or 12%. So they kill you right, at the beginning. And then it's hard to get a chance to pitch your deck to any VCs. And so, and that really slows down their expansion for sure. So I would say that my wish is that they would have more access to flexible finance, like perhaps a bank that can understand, not just a bank, banks are crooks anyway. But better access to finance for sure.
Okay. Yeah, Nadia.
Yeah, I mean, so I fully agree with you two guys, definitely. I would go also in terms of, let's say, of the human side of it. So it's really, I believe also from my own experience and talking to a lot of African business people and general business people in the world, is it's critical to grow your network with the right people, because without having the right people around, so it could be, of course, for instance, that you have, for instance, access to finance because you know someone in your network that, for instance, can help you to get a good introduce you to an investor, or introduce you to a bank that believes in your project or in your business, you name it. But also if you need, as Melanie was saying earlier, if you need, for instance, if you want to expand if I take her example, like if you want to expand to DRC, you've never been there or you don't know, and you need some legal advice, you need someone to tell you, okay, you should work, for instance, with this and this supplier, but not with this one because this one is a crook and stuff like that. So your network in general is key, and it's important for you to build it and to nourish it. You know, it's like a plant. So you need to give it water, to talk to your plant, to love your plant and stuff like that to make it grow. And at the end of the day, actually, by building and growing your network with the right people, you will be able to grow your business in a very sustainable manner. So for me, this is what I wish for all African businesses.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So just talking about connection, what your business, your Business African Business Club Africa, it's all about connection, getting the right pool of people together with a certain amount of skills or with a minimum requirement. What is your hope for the next 90 days to 12 months for your business?
That we can fly easily everywhere, all over Africa. This is my wish number one.
And you're right, actually, this is the best wish we could have.
Yeah, can we go back already?
Yeah.
90 days is very short, but
12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
For the club, I would say there are certain, we'd like to recruit more members in certain countries because in certain countries, for example, Somalia, which is quite difficult to do business there, we don't have a lot of members, for example. So I would say that, within the next 12 months, we'd like to have more people in certain countries. We have a wait list that we need to complete the onboarding of that wait list. It takes some time because, as I said, we verify the profiles, we talk to everybody. Nadia is more in charge of the business matchmaking. We've received a bunch of requests, and it's nice to see that there's more and more people collaborating together, and perhaps do a bit more PR about the club because, we're fantastic.
Hey.
Yay!
Or a fan already.
Hey.
Thank you, Victor.
Hey.
We wait for the choreography next time. You need to kind of
okay.
on the right track. I'm sure you can.
Yeah. So what's your wish, Nadia, for the club? 12 months.
No, I guess it's, so I fully agree, and luckily with what Melanie was saying.
Luckily.
Partners in business, partners in crime.
Yeah.
But, it's, I think it's also for us, what is important is maybe the last part, what Melanie was mentioning is also this business, like targeted or customized business matchmaking service that we're offering to all our members. So basically it's according to a member's need, we will help him or her find, for instance, a potential new client, or some potential new business partners. So for instance, we've put in touch, just to give you a few examples, but from, for instance, one member that was looking to, in those specific COVID times, to actually take this opportunity to write articles, and she wanted to be broadcasted on different large media and stuff. So we put her in touch with another of our members, and it happened. So it was nice when I opened last week the newsletter of a very big newspaper, and I found her on the first page saying, okay, that this person had actually had an article on a specific topic. So that's for us a very good sign. But also for putting together, for instance, one member with another, they're in two different countries, and basically one had his business for over 20 years now, and actually talking to the other member, we figured out, okay, that could be something interesting to put them in touch, so that one of them could diversify actually his business in his country with this business from this other member. So just to give you some examples of, or of course also for to find new suppliers, for instance, or to find some legal advice. So we have also a bunch of really really great business lawyers in different countries dealing with different topics. So business lawyers, for instance, for mining and stuff like that. So we put them then in touch with the right people, but also, of course, as Melanie was saying, also with investors. So because investors are struggling to find good bankable projects or businesses they want to invest in. And on the other side, you have a lot of businesses in Africa that are really struggling while they have a very good project or very flourishing business, but they need further money to expand, for instance. So that's basically what we're doing. And for us, it's also over the next year to see more and more of these business matchmaking, concrete business matchmaking we're doing that actually, yes, are really happening and becoming concrete and help each of these members to grow. Yeah, and I think this is really important and critical. And maybe if I may just add, so also I think for us it's to also, like, our members that we have already now, they're very happy in terms of the time also we're saving them by putting them together, you know, by putting them in touch based on their requests, on their needs. Because what we've realized also, and that's what we do with our club, because we have a very pragmatic approach, because we've been also ourselves or still in some clubs or been also in networking cocktails and whatsoever, and we've seen also the limits. And also talking, as we said, with all the people we surveyed and also the members we're in touch on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, we're all business people. We don't have much time to spend and stuff. So it's not about each month, I have to go to this specific event and show my face and whatsoever and talk to 3-4 people, which at the end of the day doesn't bring me much. So for us, it's really, okay, yes, you need, today you need to find a new client over there. Then because you got this new client, you need to find, for instance, in another country, a local partner to do the job with you. Fine, perfect. You can contact us for pretty much anything. And that's every time. And as Melanie was saying, we're kind of almost around the clock, and especially because we're an online business and we're spread out. It's in terms of time zones, it's quite a broad thing. So you take it here as an opportunity as well. So it's to actually
it is an opportunity actually.
Yeah, but sometimes it can be a bit tricky when you want to talk and you're like, no, the person is still sleeping because over there it's night. But fine, fair enough. But at the end of the day, you know, again, the importance is to make it happen in a very efficient and effective manner.
Okay. And is the business club kind of niche bound, or is there any scope to it, or any business, or how is it?
It's across all industries. So, but you know, since it's people doing business in Africa, it's the typical industries, meaning we have a lot of people in mining, energy, oil and gas, renewable, retail, agriculture, tech. So it's really across all industries. As we mentioned, all members are senior level. So most of them, I would say they're above 40 years old, and they have, you know, a good 15 years of experience. So. So when we introduce you to someone, you know, you're talking to someone who's qualified. You know, they have enough experience. They know what they're talking about. They're expert in their job.
Okay.
So just to give you an example also of titles, let's say we'll have country managers of big oil and gas companies. We'll also have their procurement managers and their HR managers, because they can post their procurement and their job offers on our marketplace. We'll have, VP sales, business development directors. We have consultants in different areas, let's say agriculture experts. We have legal advisors, lawyers, as Nadia was saying. So it's all very senior level managers.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
We actually need that. We need all hands to be on deck to elevate and connect everyone that is meaning well for the continent. So I'm really grateful. So one last thing. Is there any last word for an entrepreneur, a business person that is going through these rocky, uncertain times right now? Just one word and we'll wrap up.
Don't give up.
I like that one. Straight from the heart.
Yeah, cash flow is a nightmare for everybody. Yeah. Don't give up.
Exactly. I wanted to say keep going, so it's keep going. Yeah.
Keep going. So keep going, guys. Don't give up. Keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah. We're all on the same boat, so keep going. Yeah.
We're all on the same boat. So, guys, Melanie and Nadia, they've been doing an amazing job connecting, which is human connection, which is one of the most vital key, because actually at the end of the day, business is people to people, person to person. So the connection is the number one key, and they have they've been running this for a they've been very successful running this now. How long have you guys been running this?
And okay, I thought you were gonna say.
No,
sorry, there was a delay.
Yeah, I just remembered. How long have you guys been running this?
Now we officially launched. We gathered our network just last fall in 2019.
Okay.
But we've been, as we mentioned earlier, we have the partners all together. We have between 10 and 25 years experience doing business in Africa, growing our network. So, but officially, we've decided to bring the network online on a platform back in fall 2019.
I must commend you guys, because putting this together is not
easy.
Yeah, at all. So making this, having the idea is one thing, but making it happen.
Yeah. But it's going well, so we're happy.
Yes.
Get great results.
Yeah, I'm happy as well. Being a part of it, I am happy. And if there's any way I could push this forward, I'm very, very happy to do that.
Well, thank you for the invitation to your podcast. So it's already great.
Yeah.
And see, if you want to connect with real business people, qualified business people, and have great mastermind, Business Club Africa, it is actually where you should be on the waiting list, because you can't just jump in. Come be on the waiting list and you will be spoken to. So if they want to connect with you guys, Nadia, Melanie, they want to connect with you, how can they reach out to you?
They can go on businessclubafrica.com and they can send us an email from there. There's a contact us page, and we're always around. Within 2 business days, usually we reply to people.
Oh, great. So it's quite straightforward anyways. You don't need me to tell you that. So it's straightforward. Go to the website, Business Club Africa, and get in touch with either Melanie. Just fill in the form and and play around the website. You'll see what may interest you. On that note, I would say thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you very much.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful and honored that you guys showed up.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to spend time.
It's been a great conversation anyways.
Yeah. Thanks to you.
Thank you.
All right, bye. See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
So thank you very much for being part of the show. We really appreciate you here. Listen, we all have ideas and visions of how we see our lives, our enterprise. But without strategic moves, it will remain a pipe dream. As an accountability coach and your success partner, I help and support my clients to build their dream business or their dream lifestyle and make it a reality. So talk to me today, no matter how crazy your business vision is or how crazy your ideas are. We can build structure to make it a reality. So send me an email or click the link below to talk about your ideas now. It is your dream. It came to you for a reason. So be responsible, because the world is waiting for you to act. Thank you. Until next time, this is Victor Osio. Be great.